this meeting of the West Haymarket JPA Board to order. To my left is Councilwoman Tammy Ward, and to my right is Regent Tim Clare. This is a public meeting subject to the Open Meetings Act, which is posted in the back of the chamber. And the order of business is as follows. The clerk will read the item on the agenda, and staff member will come forward to make a presentation. We'll take public comment. And if each speaker could please state their name and address for the record, that would be so helpful. And keep in mind that testimony is limited to 5 minutes per item. And with that, if you could please call the first item, Casey.
Item number 3, approval of the minutes from the JPA meeting held October 24th, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
All right, moved by Claire, seconded by Ward. Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Claire,
Yes.
Gaylor Baird,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
motion carried 3-0.
I see Mr. Connolly approaching.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Microphone.
Chris Connolly, City Law Department. We don't have financials today because Brandon Kaufman is not around, but in lieu of that, what I would like to be able to do at Mr. Clare's request is to revisit a notice he gave to all of you as board members that we'd like to share with the public about the refunding of the bonds that took place earlier this month. As you may recall, there was an opportunity to do a refunding of bonds from both the 2011 and 2013 series. They were going to both be handled a little bit differently. Certainly the 2011 series we expected to go forward. There was some question as to whether or not the 2013 series would go forward. However, they went ahead and did the 2011, and there will be a net present value savings of $12,155,480, or 12.155% over the course of the remainder of the bonds until 2042. And this will generate approximately $850,000 annually in savings on the life of the bonds. Now, so that was for 2011 series. The 2013 series was not, the bonds were not issued. There is a benchmark that all of the financial professionals like to look for in terms of the savings. They want to make sure there's at least a 5% savings on each of these bonds as they do them. And at the time that they looked to do the 2013 bonds, they were only going to be able to net 3.995% on the savings. And so they declined to issue those right now. And he had indicated that that might be the case. And so they withheld doing the 2013 refund for now, but they'll keep watching the market and see what happens down the road. And so this is not an action item. It's not public hearing or anything like that. However, if any of you board members have any questions, I'll try and answer it.
Question?
Well, I asked Chris about this because we have a fiduciary duty to do, in our best efforts, to do the best we can with the monies that have been put in our care and custody. And the refinancing, we took advantage of some great historically low rates, and our duty is, that I believe, and I think my colleagues believe as well, to see if there's opportunities to refinance and save some money for the JPA, the taxpayers of Lincoln, and this saved approximately $850,000 annually in interest expense, and I think it's something that shouldn't go unnoticed, and I think it's something that instead we as a group should celebrate. So I want to say publicly thanks to Brandon and his team and Chris and for helping get this project completed and done for the benefit of the JPA and the city of Lincoln.
And just to clarify for everyone out there watching, the financial report for this month will take place at our next meeting, correct?
That's correct.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay.
All right, if you could please call the next item, Casey.
Item number 4, WH 19-33, resolution approving a consultant agreement between the West Haymarket JPA and Olson Inc. for on-call services, including but not limited to environmental sampling and analysis, surveying, and semi-annual and annual inspections in accordance with the West Haymarket redevelopment site north and south operations and maintenance plans for a sum not to exceed $25,000.
Great, thanks, Casey. Frank Ularek, Transportation Utilities. Tim, you're a old hand at this. You know some of the history, but for Mayor and Councilman Ward, little background. We've assessed and cleaned up the entire West Haymarket redevelopment area, in part using brownfields funds and other funding mechanisms through the JPA through the years, as a condition of getting no further action documentation from the Nebraska Department of Environmental Quality, now the NDEE, Environment and Energy. We had to have restrictive covenants put in place on the parcels because there is residual contamination at depth in present coverage with soil and concrete and so forth, and other institutional and engineering controls is not a threat. However, if you go to dig and put in groundwater wells or try and drink the water out at the site, DEE wants to prohibit that. But in maintaining those covenants, we have to do periodic inspections, and ultimately there always seems to be some request for soil sampling on a new development or tract, oversight on construction activities and so forth. It's very helpful to have this on-call service to be able to respond and stay in compliance with the covenant restrictions. So we've selected Olson. They've been involved with the site for years and have a lot of institutional knowledge, and we'd like to proceed with these various tasks for them in the future.
Any questions? I just wanted to confirm that the expenditure is not required. This is just a contract to have for on-call services if they are needed.
Right, not to exceed. We have a couple of tasks, including surveying and completion of the semi-annual and annual inspection reports required on the covenants that account for maybe 50% of that total at this point, but we want to keep some in reserve for that periodic sampling and oversight that we need to comply with.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak to this item? We'll take public comment on item number 4.
Jane Kinsey with Watchdogs. So are they still taking, the drilling is being done and is still in place?
That actually is my next item on the agenda for the canopy lofts, the final assessment and cleanup of the petroleum plume that was in that vicinity.
Right.
If that's what you're asking about, any ongoing sampling and analysis?
So the plume's still being sampled?
I'll speak to that on the next
Okay.
item, which it's
Okay.
being closed by the state.
Okay, so this has to do with, not with the plume. It has to
No.
do with just sampling?
There are restrictive covenants in place across the vast majority of all tracts in the West Haymarket. Again, to achieve a no further action document from the Nebraska DEE, you have to put these covenants in place and ensure that people don't come into contact with deeper contaminated soils that were left in place. And again, verify that water wells aren't being installed and that there's not unrestricted intrusion upon the caps and soil covers that are in place across the various sites.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and how often are they doing that?
That's a semi-annual inspection, and then when you do the annual inspection, a report is submitted to DEE.
Okay. And they've done it this year?
We've got on the north, I think we're on our third year of actual reporting on the covenant compliance. And this year we'll cover for the first time those areas south of O Street, the former Alter Scrap and J-Land cleanup sites.
Okay. And 25,000 is for 1 year or
We think we'll probably get a couple years out of that
2 years? Okay. From now?
from now. Yes.
Not in 2019, but 2020?
We may spend approximately half of the the 25 grand in 19 and calendar year 20, with some reserve for 2021 thereafter.
Okay, thank you.
Can you, Mr. Lark, can you just clarify that this is, again, an agreement that's for up to a sum not to exceed that amount, and we don't know that we will even spend that amount?
Yes,
It's,
on-call services.
Thank you.
As I've indicated, I have about 10 or 12,000 in tasks identified with Olson already to initiate here in the next 6 months or so.
thank you.
And so this is more or less like a monitoring expenditure, because there's nothing from an environmental standpoint that prohibits the uses that we have down in that area right now.
Correct.
And we've gotten
Correct.
all the formal letters and approvals and everything, so this is just basically if something comes up, and they'll check it to make sure that things are in order. But everything from an environmental standpoint is taken care of.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
All right. Looking for a motion to approve item number 5, West Haymarket 19-34.
So moved.
Oh, I'm sorry, 19-33. My apologies, item number 4.
Excuse me, so moved.
Second.
Moved by Ward, second by Claire. Please call the roll.
Claire,
Yes.
Gaylor Baird,
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Motion carried 3-0. Next item is WH 19-34, resolution to approve amendment number 3 to the Kennedy Jenks contract for site closure and monitoring well abandonment services at the Canopy Street remediation site for an additional amount not to exceed $1,114, bringing the total contract amount to $42,022.24.
Frank Ularic, Lincoln Transportation Utilities. At long last, we've got the closure letter coming from the Nebraska Department of NDEE on the petroleum plume, which had surrounded, pretty much been focused around the Canopy Lofts area. Tim, as you may recall, we kind of modified our pumping scheme. I think I called it the super suck on one of our previous meetings to have a more effective removal of the contaminants, and by gosh, the super suck has worked well, and we're approaching zero free product out there. Close enough to where NDE has indicated that we're going to have a closure letter on that site. And when you close the site, the wells that you're using to monitor the product have to be properly abandoned, and this $1,100 and some change is to help what Kennedy Jenks had left to abandon the wells, and this will close out Canopy Lofts forever.
Okay, any questions? We take public comment on this item.
Jane Kinsey with Watchdogs. So there is no plume left, or what?
It's immeasurable, you may say. It's not readily detectable. And usually when you get to that point on a cleanup project under the petroleum remediation program with NDEE, they'll allow closure.
Okay, so you're closing it off?
Yes, we'll be done with the project.
Okay, and that is, when will that occur?
We expect there'll be a public announcement or a record of decision, and then a 30-day public comment period, probably in November, December timeframe,
In the next 30 days?
I would suspect, yeah.
Okay.
And if there's no public comment in opposition, then we'll be allowed to close the wells in the site.
Okay. So one would say that there are no contaminants down in this area.
None that exceed a health risk of concern by NDEE.
Okay, and that's the Nebraska?
Department of
Of-
Environment and Energy. It used to
Okay.
be NDEQ. They've recently rebranded.
And what about the federal?
Federal EPA was involved in the alter scrap property, and it's just a jurisdictional thing because there are polychlorinated biphenyls, PCBs, that fall under a federal act that Nebraska didn't have authority for. EPA had some involvement in the alter scrap properties, which took a little longer to get those covenants and agreements in place.
Okay. So,
EPA generally won't weigh in on petroleum sites. That's a state authority.
okay. So is there other remediation that's going to occur?
Not within the bounds of the West Haymarket redevelopment area. There may be, if Block 4 moves forward, some additional work by the developer on that site, but as far as the city and JPA are engaged, we're done with all cleanup in that area.
Okay. And is that final? Will there be any other monitoring at all?
Not other than the annual inspections
Inspections,
to
okay.
ensure, semi-annual and annual inspections to ensure that the covenants are being complied with.
Okay, just the covenants, that's it then?
Right.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Questions?
All right. If there's no further discussion on item 5, I'll take a motion to approve West Haymarket 19-34.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ward, second by Claire. Please call the roll.
Claire,
Yes.
Gaylor Baird,
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Item 6 sets the next meeting date for Thursday, December 19th, 2019 at 2:30 p.m. here in the, I guess it'll be in Bill Lexford's studio. Change of place.
Okay, so we'll be meeting in there at 2:30. Just curious, why are we meeting in there? Is it a Monday? No, it's a Thursday.
Yeah, yeah, there's usually a conflict with,
Okay, all right. Okay, well, I would then ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ward, second by Claire. Please call the roll.
Claire,
Yes.
Gaylor Baird,
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
We are adjourned. Thank you.